doing the right thing when times get tough. It's one thing to go over what you think about something or having an idea of what you think about something. Maybe you're studying something and you've gone over a topic like a lot in your head and by paper. Or like maybe you're in a relationship, right? And you think that you care about the other person, but you haven't actually gone through a difficult moment together. If you're studying and trying to learn something, you might have an idea of what you think something is like. You might even know it as a matter of fact, but when you actually do the activity or exercise, you still might not be able to perform. And the reason is because you haven't made that connection. Your brain hasn't made the connection with, kind of the body-hand coordination, but in this case, the mind-action coordination is not, the connection hasn't been made yet. So, what's happening in your inside, it's not really connecting to the outside world. And I think it's good to have a general idea of what you're trying to learn. Like, it helps, but your skills, they really cannot be fully developed until you do it in real life. Okay, so you can think about something, but until you practice it or until you see it and put it in the real world, you won't know. So until you put, when you put, it's not going to happen until you start actually doing the work. So until your pen meets the paper and then you actually do the thing, or until you, create the project with a software, right? You're not going to really, you haven't done even though you understand what you're doing, you haven't done the actual task. Now, what I'm saying is you need to do the task that you're trying to do and not just know about it. Because otherwise, the task will feel alien and difficult to you, even though you know what the right answer is in theory. Now, maybe you're in a relationship and you think to yourself, I really like this person. Maybe you feel love for them. Well, as I say, the universe is going to test you at some point. It doesn't have to be like an artificially created scenario, but it will just happen as a natural course of things that come about in life. So there will be a situation where the other person will do something that is a big deal, that is negative, and you're going to have to extend forgiveness or openness to another to your partner, to whoever or whatever the relationship is, right? Whether it's parent, whether it's lover, whether it's whatever, friendship, but you're gonna have to do it in an extreme way. And so all of a sudden, this could have you questioning whether or not you have compassion for this person or you care about them. Now, what I'm trying to say is that if you have made a commitment to learn something or be in a relationship with someone, then you're going to have to choose the right thing. And that feels very different when you actually do something versus just thinking about that something. It's one thing to say you believe something or that you know something, and it's another thing to actually be placed in a situation where you are tested and then being able to act out and choose the right action that aligns with what you're trying to do. Now, this is something that can be be improved over time. It can be improved upon over time. You can learn and train yourself to act as you want to be, but you need to first be aware that it's something that needs to happen. This is part of the learning process, and I'm just trying to recognize it. The idea that just because you say something or you've read something, even if you've just thought about something, that doesn't mean you're ready to do the action or that you can actually implement what you have been thinking about. So your emotions might prevent you from achieving your goals. If during hard times or tough times, if you're not able to perform, then your knowledge is only going to take you so far. And maybe the whole thing, it could just be an illusion. Like, you might not really be good at it. And so now most of the time it does help. Like, I think you can still be good at something, if you understand it. And sometimes it's just a matter of getting, it's a matter of just practicing, what you already know. So the knowledge is still there, but sometimes it's like you can't access the knowledge if you don't get used to accessing it. So in order to overcome that, it's important to change your emotional state so that when the time comes to act, you'll be able to act, or you'll be at least in control of what you're doing. And most humans can learn this. Like, I really believe that. This is why people value experience with the assumption that since you've already done something, it means you've already overcome many of these thought to action issues. And that's how most people approach things. That's why, like, most jobs, they're like, oh, do you have experience in this, right? They ask you. Now, that it makes sense in a way, but at the same time, I kind of disagree, because, most people can learn this quickly anyway, without too much time. So I think it's okay, but I think it's overrated. And to be honest with you, most people can learn things. So this isn't really about upholding experience as much as saying that you need to do the experience, but it's always different anyway. So let's go back to, like, in a relationship, let's say, right? You don't extend that compassion. If you do not extend the compassion when the time calls for it, that means you failed. If when you are supposed to act in a certain way, if somebody, does something wrong or something that, makes you upset, and you are not able to extend that compassion, then you have failed. And that doesn't mean that you don't like them, but it means that you have failed in that particular instance. So it might mean that you don't care, but the point is, you're getting tested. And sometimes you're meant to fail, right? Sometimes maybe it's a good thing that you fail, because you realize what your weaknesses are. And if you want to succeed, you have to start practicing and then just being able to make that decision when the time comes. So this probably happens often, where you'll meet someone who is extraordinarily talented, but when they're on the spot, they just get nervous or can't get their thoughts straight. So sometimes it's about creating the environment that allows a knowledgeable person to be able to be more comfortable. Other times it's about encouraging someone to relax and show their true self. Sometimes your emotions and feelings can get in the way of doing something, but usually if someone knows their stuff, they are able to do the right thing and capable of doing the right thing. So a wise leader should be able to see the potential of a student or worker. Likewise, a good performing arts director should be able to get a person comfortable enough so that they can give their best performance. Or a photographer being able to get a good picture out of someone who is normally not photogenic. And what I'm trying to say here is that sometimes the people who know stuff, there are a lot of people who know things, but then when you look at them or when you see their action, they're kind of bumbling around, and you think, like, how could this person be the greatest? Like, sometimes, it's like the nutty professor. basically, or the absent-minded professor, right? They walk into the room and people are like scratching their heads, like, this is the expert, this is the, and what's funny is that a lot of times that is how it is. You know, you'll meet like an amazing actor, but as they're walking into the room, they're like fumbling around, they're kind of looking nervous. And it's like, how can this person be a good actor, right? And then when the time comes, they're able to perform. And I guess that's kind of a slightly different situation, but it's similar to what I'm saying, because sometimes I'm talking more about, well, it kind of applies to what I'm saying here, but I'm talking more about the situations where you have someone who is capable of doing something, but their emotional state is affecting their performance. Or maybe they're just always nervous at the beginning. And so as a leader, okay, if you need to recognize that and need to be able to bring out the best out of people instead of expecting them to perform and always at the beginning. And to me, that shows an immaturity. And to me, it's really weird, but that's actually kind of a beginner's mistake in my view. Thinking that first impressions matter, or that a person always has to be on their A game all the time. Like, that's just not how reality works. And I think somebody who is, and this kind of gets to what I'm trying to say here, is that when you're dealing with someone, you want to be able to get at the core of who they really are and understand what their true potential is. So when the time gets tough, they're able to do what needs to happen, So life is not just about knowing how to do things, but it's also about releasing that knowledge in the right moments and in the moments that count. And so that's something that you can practice. And a good leader is someone who's able to maximize and let out the best in people. And too often, for our society, and in movies or whatever, we seem to have this very beginner's mistake, this idea that everyone is just going to be on their A game all the time, right? And the reality is that, most of the time, you need to give people a chance. Like, some people are going to have good days and bad days. Some people are, because of their emotional state, they might not be able to perform as well, or they might choke, I guess what they call it. But you still need to have the patience and wisdom to say, oh, well, you know what? That's okay, because I know that you have the ability to do this, and we can work on this, and you can become a better person. And so don't allow your emotional state to affect all of the years of work and practice that you've put in and all of the knowledge that you have. It's just a matter of coordinating your actions with what you know. So what do you all think about this? And thanks for joining me.